Something big is happening, and it's happening fast. Markets are in turmoil, investors are scrambling, and no one, not even the top analysts on Bay Street or Wall Street, seems to know how this one will end. But one thing's for sure, this is not just another policy announcement from Washington. This time, Donald Trump has made a move that could reshape the entire economic relationship between the United States and Canada. And tonight, people across the country, from Vancouver to Halifax, are asking the same question. What does this mean for us? Because when Trump acts, the ripple effects are never small. Now, sources close to the situation say the White House has been preparing this for weeks, quietly setting the stage for a new trade framework that could either boost North American industries or send them into complete chaos. What's clear is that the president isn't holding back anymore. After a series of tense exchanges between his administration and Canadian officials, Trump reportedly signed off on what insiders are calling a direct economic shock. The move instantly triggered volatility in global markets. The Canadian dollar dropped within minutes of the news hitting trading screens. Toronto's TSX index, usually calm during morning sessions, saw wild swings, with energy and manufacturing stocks hit the hardest. Some traders described it as pandemonium. But let's take a step back for a second, because this didn't just come out of nowhere. Ever since Mark Carney took office as Canada's Prime Minister, relations with Washington have been uneasy. Carney, the former central banker with deep ties to global finance, promised stability, green growth, and a long-term vision for Canada's economic independence. But that vision hasn't exactly lined up with Trump's America First approach. Over the past few months, Trump has repeatedly hinted that Canada's trade behavior, his words, has been unfair and one-sided. He's accused Canada of taking advantage of U.S. industries, particularly in energy, agriculture, and manufacturing. And for weeks, he's been teasing what he called a major correction. No one thought he'd actually go this far. Tonight, that correction seems to have arrived. And while the details are still unfolding, analysts are already saying this could be one of the biggest trade disruptions between the two countries in decades, possibly bigger than the original NAFTA standoff back in 2018. Now, inside Ottawa, the mood is described as tense. Carney's economic advisors reportedly went into an emergency session within hours of Trump's announcement. Treasury officials were spotted entering Parliament Hill late at night. There are rumors, again, unconfirmed, that Carney has reached out to both the European Union and Japan for rapid economic coordination in case the markets continue to slide. The message coming out of Washington is clear. The U.S. is protecting its own interests first. But Canada's position is a bit more complicated. Because while some in Alberta and Saskatchewan may welcome Trump's tougher approach, especially those in oil and gas who see it as leverage, Ontario and Quebec's manufacturing sectors could take a massive hit if trade barriers start to rise again. You can already feel the division building inside the country. Western provinces are saying, "We told you so," claiming Ottawa's over-reliance on foreign environmental policies weakened Canada's negotiating power. Meanwhile, Eastern premiers are calling for calm, warning that any escalation could spiral into an economic Cold War that hurts everyone. But here's where things get even more interesting, and where viewers really need to pay attention. Behind the scenes, there are whispers of something bigger, that Trump's move isn't just about trade. It's about control. Some suggest the White House is pushing to reset the entire North American energy and manufacturing map, with the U.S. at the center and Canada forced to adapt. That would explain why Washington suddenly tightened export rules on certain Canadian goods last week, and why several American energy firms quietly paused joint projects in Alberta. Coincidence? Maybe. But the timing couldn't be more suspicious. Now, what's really unsettling investors isn't just the move itself. It's the uncertainty surrounding what comes next. No one knows whether Trump's announcement is the beginning of a new round of negotiations or the end of cooperation altogether. And Mark Carney, despite being a seasoned economic strategist, now faces one of the toughest tests of his career. Canada's entire export economy, roughly 70% of which depends on U.S. trade, is on the line. Already, Canadian farmers are bracing for possible disruptions. Automakers are warning of layoffs if supply chains are blocked. And ordinary Canadians, those who rely on cross-border trade for their jobs, from truckers to small business owners, are watching their livelihoods hang in the balance. In a country still recovering from inflation shocks and high interest rates, the timing couldn't be worse. And yet, there's another angle here, one that many in Ottawa won't say out loud, but everyone's thinking about. Some believe Trump's move could be a deliberate political test, a way to see how far Mark Carney is willing to bend or break. Remember, Carney has long been seen as the face of the globalist economic order, someone who favors climate cooperation and international partnerships. Trump, on the other hand, has built his entire political brand on tearing those ideas down. So this might not just be about trade numbers or tariffs. This could be a battle of ideologies, Carney's global stability versus Trump's nationalist power. And make no mistake, both leaders know what's at stake. Over the past few hours, reports suggest Canadian diplomats in Washington have been working nonstop, trying to clarify what the White House's move actually entails. But the response from Trump's team has been, let's say, less than clear. One senior aide reportedly told reporters, Canada knows what it did. What that means exactly, nobody knows. There's also talk that Carney could use this crisis to rally support at home, framing Canada as the underdog standing up to an unpredictable neighbor. If that happens, we might see a major shift in domestic politics, too. Because when Canadians feel threatened, unity, even temporarily, tends to rise. But unity only lasts as long as people's jobs do. If this trade disruption stretches into weeks or months, it could trigger layoffs, shortages, and price spikes that hit ordinary families hardest. Already, some Canadian retailers are warning that imported goods could become more expensive if new tariffs take hold. And while no one is saying this yet, the underlying fear is clear. Could this lead to another recession? It's too soon to say, but the warning signs are there. Market panic, supply chain disruptions, and political uncertainty all converging at once. And yet, here's the twist. Some see opportunity in the chaos. A few bold investors are betting that this shakeup could actually help Canada in the long run. By forcing the country to diversify away from U.S. dependence, it might accelerate trade partnerships with Europe, India, or the Indo-Pacific region. If that's true, this moment could mark the painful beginning of a new, more independent economic chapter. Still, for now, the atmosphere feels heavy. No one's celebrating. The business world is on edge. The headlines are filled with speculation, and ordinary Canadians are just trying to make sense of what's real and what's political theater. And maybe that's exactly how both leaders want it. Trump showing strength to his base, Carney testing his calm to the world. Two very different styles, two very different messages, colliding in one high-stakes showdown. Where this goes next, nobody knows. But one thing's certain, this isn't the end of the story. Not even close. Because when Donald Trump makes a move like this, it's never just about today's markets. It's about tomorrow's balance of power. And for Canada, that balance might be about to shift in ways we've never seen before. Stay alert. The next few days could decide the future of North America's economy.